Our guest this episode is Marcus Sheridan, called a web marketing guru by the New York Times. His story of saving his swimming pool company, River Pools, during the 2008 economic crash has been featured around the world and become the foundation of his best-selling book, They Ask, You Answer. It was named one of the best 5 marketing books of all time by Book Authority, and it has transformed how companies build trust and connect with buyers. His most recent book, titled Endless Customers, has just recently come out. Today, Marcus is a sought-after keynote speaker and consultant, helping businesses master digital sales, marketing, and customer trust. Here to discuss how businesses can create content that drives trust and sales, please welcome to the podcast, Marcus Sheridan. Welcome to the Engaging Personalities Podcast. I'm Anders Belanger, founder and CEO of Engagify, where we're on a mission to rehumanize business through engagement. We believe that we can all be more successful if we can command attention and deepen connection. So stick around to the end of the show and we'll reveal how you can be our next guest on a future episode. So let's get ready to engage. Marcus, welcome.
Thrilled to be here, Anders. I think we're going to have an excellent conversation today.
I think so too. There's certain individuals I bring on and I go, I think this is just going to be fun, and we just kind of dig into it, right? So I teased the story of saving your pool company in 2008 in the intro there. Can we just start there as kind of a good place to start and tell us what happened there and how you survived?
Absolutely. So it's funny, nobody ever grows up and says, I want to be a pool guy. But somehow, right after college, I just fell into it with 2 buddies. This was 2001, and we were fighting to grow the company, and we were doing a decent job. And then 2008, 2009, we get the crash, Lehman Brothers, the whole 9. We think we're going to lose the business. But the beauty of pain and suffering is it forces you to do things that you otherwise might not have done. Right? You have more of a YOLO mentality. And so it was during this time that I started to really research things like inbound marketing, content marketing, newer phrases at the time. And essentially what I was taking in was, okay, Marcus, so if you obsess over your customers' questions, worries, issues, concerns, and you're willing to address those online through text, through video, you might save your website, your business. And so I said, well, that's what I'm going to do. And that's what we did. I essentially became the Wikipedia, if you will, online of fiberglass swimming pools. And we became the most trafficked swimming pool website in the world. And it was pretty extraordinary. And then we became a manufacturer of pools and became the first franchise of fiberglass pools in the US. It's like this really crazy ride. And during that whole journey, I wrote a book about it. And the book is called They Ask, You Answer. And as you mentioned, it's done really well, over 100,000 copies, embraced by so many different companies, B2B, B2C around the world. So it's been really wild. And today I've got a couple different companies, coaching companies that actually teach sales and marketing. So it's one of my deep passions. And the fact that your theme, Anders, is engagement. It's like, man, my whole through line of my life is how to connect deeply with your audience. That's what it is for me. Sometimes we call that marketing. Sometimes we call it sales. Sometimes we call it leadership. But ultimately, it's about how do you connect on a deep human level.
Oh man, I love the way you put that. It depends on the frame or the filter that we're putting on it, how that connection is received or labeled in a sense. Now, 2008, 2009, talking digital marketing, was this mostly YouTube, Marcus, or how were you becoming that Wikipedia of pools?
At first, it was just mainly on our website with text. And, that was, I brainstormed every question I'd ever received from a prospect. And I ended up addressing these questions on our website in full articles, 1,000 words, whatever. Many of these questions nobody had ever addressed. I was the first person in the world to talk about very openly online, how much does an in-ground fiberglass pool cost? And what's crazy about this, because a lot of companies are very afraid to address some of these fundamental things that people want to know. They think it's going to somehow hurt them. What hurts you is when you allow ignorance to exist, because we hate ignorance online. We hate not knowing something or not learning something. And buyers today, they want to feel like they're in control, right? And so we addressed it. And to make a long story really, really short, that one single article, Anders, has generated over $35 million in sales from leads that I got that turned into revenue, $35 million in sales, which is crazy. And I've seen this with like now companies all over the world, a lot of which are clients, like still to this day, the number one traffic lead sales generating content has to do with money. Always.
Yeah. That reminds me a lot of when we work with our trade show clients and create these custom presentations. They always say, like, how are you going to be able to, create a presentation for us? And when you chunk things all up, in a sense, it's save money or make money, save time. Time and money combined are productivity,
That's
and
right.
then the last piece is
Yep.
peace of mind. And I mean, if you're going to save money, you're going to get peace of mind out of that. They all interconnect. So you're so right in that it's not complicated. It's pretty simple when it comes down to it. So really, I can see how your book relates to that idea that you were providing the answers, that everyone was asking, right? And
What's
you
wild though
you
is
weren't hiding it like some companies, holding it dear and close, right?
we weren't hiding it, and that's the thing. I mean, the whole reason why I came out with Endless Customers is because in November 2022, you see ChatGPT come out, and suddenly, like everybody was saying to me, Marcus, what does this mean? What does this mean for Google? What does this mean for your website? What does this mean for like how buyers are going to change? And this much I can tell you, the future of your business and your ability to generate leads on the front end of that buying experience is not going to be with Google, because as buyers and consumers become more and more informed, they're going to use traditional search engines less. They're going to use AI more. And already, if you're listening to this right now, whereas you probably didn't ask ChatGPT for recommendations 2 years ago, now I bet you're asking it for recommendations. What's the best company for such and such, right? Like that's what you're doing now today.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's where we're headed, which means if you're going to be recommended by AI in the future, it's a lot harder than traditional SEO and showing up on Google. And so you're going to have to do things differently than you've done before. You've got to send out signals to the world that says, hey, we are a known and trusted brand. And that's what Endless Customers is really all about. It's like, how do you become the most known and trusted brand in your market? And essentially, it's built on 4 pillars of a known and trusted brand. Number one, you got to be willing to say online what others in your space aren't willing to say. Like, what are you discussing online right now? Whether it's text, whether it's video, whatever, audio, doesn't matter, that no one else is saying. Just like you, Anders, like there's certain things that people just don't like go there when it comes to maybe like home shows, events, things like that. But if you're willing to go there, immediately it's like, wow, he went there. Dang, okay, let's play. Right. And so what are you saying that no one else in your space is saying? That's number one. Number two, you got to be willing to show with video what others in your space aren't willing to show. It's amazing to me how companies have been so slow to understand that video is our future from a sales perspective, from a marketing perspective. In fact, there's a very strong argument to be made that your YouTube channel is going to be more important than your website in 5 years. A very strong argument to be made there. So are you giving it the attention that it deserves? Are you thinking like a media company? Because you sure as heck should be. Number 3 pillar is you got to be willing to sell in a way that others aren't willing to sell. Now that one there, that's where it gets really, really interesting. Can I lean into that one for a second, Anders?
I was just about to go, tell me more. So let's dig right into that one, please.
So there's a stat recently that came out from Gartner. It says 75% of all buyers say they would prefer to have a seller-free sales experience. All right. 75% of buyers say they would prefer to have a seller-free sales experience. Now, if you think about that, here's what's funny. Salespeople hate that. They're like, oh man, come on. I want it to be the way it used to be. But all of us are the same way. We don't want to talk to a salesperson until we feel comfortable, confident, and we're not going to make a mistake. And this trend is only going to increase. It's not going to go away. And so you have 2 options. You complain about it and say, gee, I wish it was like it used to be. Yeah, let's go use a horse and buggies while we're at it. Or you can say, I'm going to take advantage of the trend. So if you're smart, you're going to take advantage of the trend. So how do you take advantage of the trend? Well, through self-service tools online. So the book leans heavily into 5 types of self-service tools. And self-service tools are tools that give someone answers or allows them to do certain actions that previously they would have had to have done by talking with a human or a salesperson first. Perfect case in point. We have one of the things that we have with a bunch of our clients, my company called Impact, and we teach companies how to implement this system that is endless customers. So one of the things that we've been doing is creating self-scheduling tools where someone is allowed to go online and they don't have to talk to a human, but they schedule time with a salesperson. Now, in and of itself, that's not very innovative. But let me tell you the innovative part, Anders, is when what we'll do is we'll create, let's say, a page of their site that shows all the salespeople that work for that company, their images, their bios, a video about that person, and then you choose who you want to work with. Now, here's what we found every single time. This is crazy. When they do that, every single time, apples to apples, there's a doubling of the closing rate. So the closing rate increases by 100% if you allow them to choose who they want to be sold from. That's powerful.
Wow.
Imagine, Anders, let's say you go to sell your home, or today you say, I'm going to sell my home. And you talk to a friend and you're like, who would you recommend? And they say XYZ Real Estate. And you go to XYZ Real Estate's website. And on the website, you see the realtors. But again, you see all their images, all their bios, all their videos that talk about them, like a hello, this is who I am video. And then you choose which agent you want to work with. That's the ultimate UX right there. There's a reason why Uber is the preferred option over taxis. You don't know what you're going to get with a taxi. Chances are it's going to be rough, it's going to smell rough, and it's going to be beat up, and you're not going to have a great experience. Whereas if you get Uber, there's a much better chance of a better experience, right? And so this is what we want. As consumers, as buyers, we hate doubt, and we hate not feeling like we're in control.
Yeah,
and so as soon as we give someone that, it's crazy.
Right?
Agency is a big deal. That's exactly right. It's a really good word for it. It's agency. So that's example one. Let me give you another example is self-pricing tools. I can tell you right now, the future of service-based businesses especially is that they have some type of pricing estimator on their website. Now, if you think about the buyer's journey, the first question somebody has, as soon as they know they have a problem, a need, is roughly, what's this going to cost us? Like, what's this going to set us back? Oh, my AC unit broke. All right, roughly, what's this going to cost me? I need to hire an attorney. Roughly, what's this going to cost me? Right? I need to get commercial insurance. Roughly, what's this going to cost me? It's all the same. First question we have once we know we need the thing. Then once we get that question answered and we feel comfortable, like we can move forward, then we do more research. Then we decide who we're going to contact. Then we contact the company. Then the sales process starts. Then we meet with the salespeople. And then the final question we ask is almost the same as the first, except it's this time exactly what's this going to cost me? Now, what's so crazy is most companies don't address the roughly what's this going to cost me on the front end, costing millions. And I've got the data, cost millions. And so what you can do is you can create a pricing estimator that allows someone to get a general price range, not a quote, but a range as to what they might spend. Now, you benefit as the business because you get their information. They benefit because they get an estimate. They appreciate that. Everybody wins. Everybody wins. And I have, it was about a year ago, a little bit less than a year ago, I started a software company called PriceGuide.ai. And I saw where this trend was headed. So we started the first DIY pricing estimator tool online with the help of AI. You can build this tool in less than 30 minutes. It costs less than $200 a year for a subscription. You can immediately put it on your website, and it starts producing every single time 300 to 500% more leads than you were previously getting, simply by allowing someone to get a general estimate as to what they might spend. And so now when they talk to a salesperson, they're like, already did that tool. Looks like we're going to be in this range. Yeah. Or let's say the salesperson gives them a number. What they end up saying is, yep, that's roughly what I thought it was going to be. That's what your tool said it was going to be. So no surprises here. So we've seen this. I've got so much data on it now. It's crazy. What's wild, Anders, is most people listen to this will think to themselves, there's no way I could do that. And I'm telling you, you could absolutely do that. And you would change the game in your space. I'm actually building one. There's never been a professional speaker that had a pricing estimator tool on their website. I'm building that for my website right now. I've got it on multiple other websites that I for
Yeah.
other companies,
Well,
but
that'll
I
be
don't have it on that one
interesting.
yet. Yeah.
Because when you think about it, and going back to the speaking thing, because I'm in that same space, you have bureaus that have speaking range fees and things like
Yeah.
it's that's a thing,
Like, why
but
not?
somehow and I don't know, we're scared. We don't want competition knowing what we're doing. I think there's a little bit of scarcity or mindset, and
Yeah, there's a major scarcity mindset. Biggest reason that people don't do this is because they say every job is different. It depends. That's the number one reason. I break down the flaws of this psychology in endless customers, but ultimately, this is where you explain value. Just like everybody on your website, you should have an extensive pricing page that explains what drives cost up, what drives cost down for that product or service. Why are some companies expensive? Why are some companies cheap? Roughly, what do you spend? Excuse me, what do you charge?
yeah.
So that in and of itself teaches someone value. If you do that with a video, now you're just cooking with gas. I mean, you are giving so much more than anybody else, and your website visitors, your buyers are like, "Wow, this person's great." AI is saying, "I want to recommend this company because they're giving more than anybody else." They can figure that out. They can see that, man. And so, like, this is a really really big deal. This is the type of stuff that you should be doing. And I've done this in enough industries, B2B, B2C, service product, doesn't matter, where we see the results. It works every time. The problem is the courage to do it. This is where a lot of companies,
Hmm.
because they say things like, but my competition's going to see it. If I went to your competition right now and I said, do you have a pretty decent sense as to what, competitor X charges? They'd say, yeah, of course I do. Just like you know what your competitors charge. This is the big secret, non-secret. Everybody acts like nobody knows what everybody's charging. When in reality, everybody at least has a decent sense as to what everybody else is charging. The other one that people say is, well, we tend to be more expensive. If they see we're more expensive, we just might scare them away. That's not actually true. What scares us away is when we're online and we can't find roughly what is this going to cost me. That first question isn't answered. And so we stop. If your listeners right now, Andrews, had any idea of how many leads and therefore revenue they have lost because they refuse to address the singular question, roughly, what is it going to cost me? They would vomit in their mouths right now. That's how strong of a reaction they would have. But you see, they don't know. They have no idea how many they've lost.
Yeah.
All they know is, well, this is the way that we've been doing it for a long time. And I like to feel like I'm in control of the sales process. Well, newsflash, you're not in control of the buyer's journey.
Yeah.
You need to let this go. And AI is making that even more so.
It totally reminds me of times where I've been on, and it's usually a SaaS product. I've been on the website and I can't find the pricing thing at the top.
Oh,
And I
SaaS
go,
is the
all right,
worst.
I'm out, right? Like, and it's just like, so that's a perfect example. And so, you've researched this. I'm sure there's like A/B testing on whether it's there or not, and what that looks
I have
like.
literally at this point hundreds of clients that have paid me to do this. And we have the befores and afters. I can tell you right now, call for quote is literally like the middle finger of the internet. Who sees call for quote and says, I feel really good about that? I can't wait.
Yeah,
All it
yeah,
does is piss you off. That's
yeah.
all it does. There is no argument at this point in time. Anybody's listening to this could literally say, but, and I would say, actually, we've worked with someone in your space. Here's how we did it. There's
Yeah.
just not a single person. There's not a company. There's like no industry that I have found. Doesn't
When
exist.
you said too that there's a pricing page and giving context to this,
Yeah.
right, and the value associated, I think that's the biggest thing. Like what I was taught is you don't quote, you have a proposal, right? Because then it's more of a story that you're telling and you're building the value. Giving a number by itself without context, without value, is that's not going to be the way you're going to win against other competitors, especially if it's just price based, right? And I think
Well,
that
see,
idea of that
here's
mindset has to be adjusted, right?
yeah, it does because a lot of that mindset is pre 1995. Because post 1995, we had this thing called the internet, and like progressively, the internet has gotten dramatically more effective at giving us real time answers to the point now where we've got AI and we don't even have to click on a website anymore. And so this is where we're headed. Now, what people don't understand is this. They think, as I say this, they're like, but I, I know that it's not what I want my sales team doing. Correct. Your sales team should talk about pricing last. Your marketing team talks about pricing first. because
Mm.
it matches exactly where they are in the journey. So if I meet with you as a prospect in real life, and the first thing that we talk about is pricing, and then I do the, let's say, presentation or proposal, not effective. In fact, we've got the data on that. What is effective is when we do deep discovery, and then we do strong recommendation, and then we do resolution, and then we do, here's the cost. That's very effective. But that's 20% of the buyer's journey right there. The other 80% is very different. And it's inarguable once somebody has the data. Problem is, a lot of people speak about this. As a sales trainer, I do both. I've got a sales training company and I have a marketing agency. And the two games are like all represent the same buyer's journey, but you can't play them the exact same way. And so that's why the smart ones give the buyer what they want throughout the journey. And so at the beginning of the buyer's journey, you address the estimate, and at the end, you give the exact. That's how it's supposed to work.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, and I see the expectation being met all along the way, and it almost invites them down the journey. And again, you're not scaring them off like we just talked about, like me not finding the thing. I'm out,
Who
off the
doesn't want
plane, right?
300% more
Yeah,
leads?
yeah. And,
That's what's wild to me.
and
I
you're
mean,
attracting the people you want to do business with, because they
yeah,
wouldn't have come
correct.
into the sales process if they weren't a fit, right? And they've already decided that they
Correct.
are, in a sense,
I
right?
don't know if you know anything about SaaS, but like in terms of like the business model, but there's a very high churn rate for SaaS on a monthly basis.
Yeah.
All right. I mean, an average in SaaS is somewhere in that like 7% range of like turnover on a monthly basis because they just lose a lot of their customers are like, I'm out. I have hundreds of customers that are using Price Guide, which is that pricing estimator tool. Our
Mhm.
churn rate is 0.77%, less than 1%. Why? Nobody gets rid of it. You would think if it didn't work, like people would get rid of it, right? Or
Yeah.
if it was damaging to the sales process, people would get rid of it. No, what happens is they get addicted to the leads.
Yeah. Interesting. So, Marcus, I want to go back just a little bit. Where did is this stuff that you've learned over time? Did you have, sales and marketing authors, speakers, people that you followed that influenced you over time? Or, is this just born out of pure, business experience?
I
Where,
have been obsessed with communication that connects since I was a teenager. And then I ended up, when I was 20 years old, I served a mission for my church in Chile for 2 years. And that's where I really learned how to effectively communicate and how to communicate in such a way that I created again a deep connection with my audience. But from an even earlier time in my life, I can remember when I was in elementary school. This one time, I had this kid sit next to me named Mac, and he was getting explained to him by the teacher how to do this math problem. Mac was looking at the teacher, and I could tell Mac was not understanding what the teacher was saying. But the teacher just kept going on, just like, eventually the teacher was like, got that? And Mac's like, yeah, yeah, thank you, got it. No, Mac didn't get it. Mac was too embarrassed to
mm,
say, I don't understand. But I remember thinking, I'd never want to communicate so poorly. And I don't know if I said those words, but I was thinking, I never want to communicate so poorly that I can clearly see someone doesn't get it, yet I just allow that to happen. And so when I am thinking about marketing, when I'm thinking about sales, very deeply obsessed with what would I want in that moment and is the person getting it? Because the root of communication is the same as it is for community or communion. It's all the same thing. It's the bringing together of, like in this case, an understanding of, right? And that's our job, whether it's sales, whether it's marketing. And that's why, I look at sales around the world. We've got a major dearth of sales training around the world today. Less than 5% of all sales reps do a real role play sales training once a month. Once a
Mhm.
month. Less than 2% do it once a week. Less than 2%. Yet we sit there and we say, why do we struggle to make connection with our prospects? Why do we not have like the ability to converse like we used to? Well, we don't train it. So of
Mhm.
course we stink. We're practicing on our customers and not on ourselves. That's a problem. And so I don't believe on practicing on customers. I don't think that's the way to I don't think that's the way to do sales. Yet you have a lot of managers that are afraid to fail in front of their teams because if you do role plays, you have to be very comfortable failing in front of your team.
Mhm.
And by the way, sales should be easy when you get to the prospect because your trainings are hard. But let me tell you, a sales meeting is not sales training. Everybody has sales meetings. What's good is a sales meeting if all you do is talk about pipeline, but don't actually discuss real ways and practice real ways to communicate yourself more effectively? Give me a break. It doesn't make any sense. And, forgive the passion, but I just understand how this affects our lives. I have looked over the cliff before as a business. I have stared bankruptcy square in its face. So I don't believe in following norms. I don't want to do it like everybody else. And that's the rallying cry of endless customers. It's like, you got to stop selling like everybody else. You got to stop talking about the things that everybody else is talking about online. Stop showing the same videos everybody else is showing if you're showing any videos at all. You got to be different.
Mhm.
Disruption is essential as we go forward. And if you are not willing to disrupt your industry, especially with content, then there's a very good chance that you're not going to make waves. You're not going to be found. You're certainly not going to be recommended by AI.
Yeah. Yeah. Bottom line, I mean, marketing is about differentiation. And if you're going to get noticed, AI is not going to see it, right? So if that happens, there's something I want to go back to something because, by the way, you just spit out pure gold all the day long here, Marcus. And sometimes I have things that I'm like, oh, I want to ask about that, but then we're on
Thank
to
you.
other things already. There's so much good stuff here to dig into, and I encourage people to go back and listen, make notes. One of the things you were talking about is choosing the salesperson, right, and giving that
Mhm.
agency to the customer. I know that was a while ago. Are you finding that salespeople are having to work on themselves more in terms of how they present themselves, in
Yeah.
terms of personal branding, in terms of, even as they
Yep.
speak on video, people are going to be judging that consciously, unconsciously on
Hmm.
who is this person, what is their warmth, what is their presence, what is their power
Yep.
like in terms of their charisma, uh, is that something that you're seeing certain rock stars be way ahead of these other guys because these other guys just don't have it in terms of
Yeah, it's interesting.
engagement skills in a sense,
Salespeople are a competitive bunch.
Sure.
And if they see one of their team members doing something that's leading to success, they're like, I went in on that action right
Yeah.
there. Right. Let me give you an example. We've had this thing called email for roughly 27, 28 years now. And we've been doing it pretty much the same for 27, 28 years. Today, it's very easy to send email as a salesperson as video.
Mm-hmm.
But if I was talking to your audience right now and I said, how many of you consistently do or send out video based email, especially when appropriate? Not like for a one sentence answer, but let's say for an introduction or a pre meeting or a post meeting or any of those things. Like, you should be sending a one on one video. Like, it's just standard. Besides, we know people buy from those they know, like, and trust. And we know that they want to feel like they've seen your face and heard your voice and know you before they buy from you. So the fact that we don't do this as salespeople and we're sending out text-based emails with a subject line that says following up or reaching out or checking or touching base, and yet we're not connecting on a very human level, and then we blame technology. Technology, if used the right way, can be incredible for creating stronger human-to-human relationships. So that's an example of a big fail that we see. Sales teams not using very video-based email methodologies that just connect so wildly. That, though, is an example of when someone does and the team sees it, they're like, wait a second, can I learn that? But if you tell a sales team, you need to send video-based email as much as possible, especially, during, these applications, they're going to probably resist it. Let one person start crushing with it. And then all of a sudden everybody does it. That's also why, though, I'm a big fan of the scheduler, because the schedulers, like, at first might be met with a little bit of resistance. And then all of a sudden, they're on board with it and they see the power of it. The other thing that salespeople are funny about is your sales team oftentimes should be your core subject matter experts, especially with video. So if you're treating video and your brand like a media company, which you should say, we're a media company, we sell pools. We're a media company, we do carpet installs. We're a media company, we do some type of B2B service, whatever it is. Okay. You're a media company, whether you realize that or not right now. You're a media company. And so if you're a media company, you need subject matter experts on camera. What's fascinating to me is lots of times salespeople are like, that's not my job, until they see another salesperson that starts to crush it on camera as the lead subject matter expert for a company. And that salesperson starts to get calls and people coming and saying, hey, I saw Marcus, I saw Anders on that one video. I'd like to work with that person. This happens all the time because I have, like, one of the things that we do is we help these companies convert their salespeople into subject matter experts. And those that, like, lean into it, all of a sudden, all the leads want to work with them. Trust, baby.
Yeah.
And trust isn't going anywhere, Anders, right? It's like, what's going to change over the next 20 years? Google's probably not going to be around in 20 years. Facebook's probably not going to be around in 20 years. All these platforms are going to come and go. What's not going to come and go? Trust. Trust is going to be as fundamental to your business in 20 years as it is today. What's going to be different is the platform by which it's delivered. And I don't know what that platform is going to be. We could all be wearing some device or have some chip in our brains. I don't know what it's going to be. But I do know that regardless of what it is, you better be a known and trusted brand. That is built to last.
Beautiful. Wow. Good stuff here, Marcus. Tell us a little bit more about Endless Customers, where that's coming out. By the time this launches, it will be out, I believe. And you'll be able to find it wherever books are, I'm guessing.
Yeah, easiest place to get it, endlesscustomers.com. So you get some freebies there too. So endlesscustomers.com. Of course, you can get it on Amazon. If you're listening to this right now and you want to be challenged in terms of the way you think, the way you sell, the way you market, get Endless Customers. It's a system. That's what's beautiful is there's a clear, framework to follow, steps to follow, because I think people prefer systems. And so that's how it's written, and it's going to challenge you in a dang good way. But if you follow it, your business is never going to be the same. And in 18 months, you're going to email me and say, Marcus, just the other day, true story. And this happens to me all the time, Anders. This is what I love about authoring books. I don't need the attention, by the way. It's like people are like, if you follow me on LinkedIn, you'll see I get a lot of traction on LinkedIn, a lot. I don't need it. In fact, oftentimes it's a burden, but I do it because I have to share what's in my brain. I got to have, there's got to be a place for me to share these ideas that are just like, in my head. And I'm always going to be talking about these things. I'm just obsessed with them. And that's why I want people to know this stuff, because I have looked at bankruptcy. I've looked at losing my home square in the face. I've seen what that was like. So the other day I had this couple come up to me that had read They Ask You Answer, and they heard me speak about it in 2018. They said, Marcus, I was at a conference. We've been wanting to see you for 7 years. You made us a millionaire. And I was like, oh, wow, that's amazing. And he stops me. He's like, no, you don't understand. You made us millionaires. Like, pay ourselves a check that's millions of dollars. That's the impact you've had on our life, Marcus. I'm like, man, that's so great. And that's why I do this, is the impact that it can have on people. I don't need the accolades, right? And so I do hope you read the book, and more than anything, I hope you apply it, because it will change your life. So endlesscustomers.com.
Awesome. One thing I've learned in doing these podcasts is that I just learn so much about people, and I end up buying a ton of books. So I'm going to be one of your first customers. So for sure. Marcus, thank you so much for your deep expertise, your passion, just also, your looking into the future and, just letting us know what's coming so that we can be prepared and future-proof our businesses in the way that, customers want to buy. So I want to thank you so much for being here and sharing that with our audience.
Hey, my pleasure, buddy. I appreciate it.
Awesome. And to all of our listeners, again, thanks for tuning in once again. And until next time, you know what to do. Stay engaged. Thank you so much for listening to Engaging Personalities. If you believe this world needs more engagement and you're an industry leader or you have an interesting take on rehumanizing business, go to go.engagify.ai/podcast-guest to apply and come on the show. If you got something out of this interview, do you mind sharing it on your social media? Just grab a quick screenshot with your phone and text it to a friend or post it on the socials. If you know someone that would be a great guest, tag them on social media to let them know about the show. Include the hashtag Engaging Personalities. I love seeing your posts and guest suggestions. We are regularly putting out new episodes and content. To make sure you don't miss any episode, go ahead and subscribe. Your thumbs up, ratings, and reviews go a long way to help promote the show and mean a lot to me and my team. Want to know more? Go to our website, engagify.ai, or follow me on LinkedIn. Thanks for listening and stay engaged.